Now, why do we humans put sunscreen? Did we decide this or did someone decide this for us? And if you put sunscreen, then how do you get your vitamin D? And here's the thing that nobody asks. If you think that we need sunscreen, then no other animal on this planet uses sunscreen except humans. So, what makes us so different that we need sunscreen? Or are we the only species that just cannot handle the sun? Now, when I was young, I used to play football at 3 p.m., 12 p.m., sometimes even 1 p.m. in that very hot tropical climate sun. Never once did I use sunscreen. Never once did I hear about sunscreen growing up. And I'm not just talking about me, but all my friends, including. And none of my friends also followed anything specific because we all grew up together. There were times we used to go at the beach. We would play at around 1 p.m. in the summer heat of Mumbai. And if you know that, it gets really hot during summer. But we would never really be afraid of being out there in the sun. And then suddenly everything changed. You see ads appearing everywhere. And this is somewhere around the 2000s, where in the ads you would see people just running away from the sun and suddenly applying this miracle cream and then coming out back again and saying that, we are protecting ourselves from the sun. And with time, what I noticed is that suddenly everyone started fearing the sun overnight. And this was just a question in my head that how is this even possible that the sun that has existed for billions of years, now people are just fearing it overnight? So the question that was in my head was that was the sun dangerous or did something change? And let me take you back in time, which is what I realized that if you go back in history, every civilization worshiped the sun. You look at ancient Egypt, you look at the Greeks, you look at ancient Indian culture, everyone worshiped the sun. They had heliotherapy in Greeks where they literally would worship the sun and they would heal themselves through the sun. They also had in India where they would do sun salutation by pouring water towards the sun. You also have it in yoga where something called as a Surya Namaskar, which people just do it as an exercise these days. But the whole concept of a Surya Namaskar is you doing it while facing the sun. It's a salutation to the sun. And not just that, just think about it. All your pyramids, your temples, your ancient structures, most of them were all built around the sun. So, all these ancient civilizations that ever existed, all of them looked at the sun as it being really sacred and they all worshipped the sun. But the question again is that does the sun really damage or what is it that damages your skin? And this is where it gets really interesting. Let's take you back to where sunscreen was actually invented. It was actually invented in around 1930s by Franz Gretier. Franz Greta. Greta. This guy. He was climbing a mountain and then he got sunburned. And in 1938, he created this cream called Glacier Cream. It was a cream that was to be applied for prolonged exposure if you're out there in the sun. And then came the 1940s, where the US military started pushing the production of sunscreen to their military because they were out there for a prolonged period of time. Again, understand that this whole concept of the sunscreen was because you're out in the sun for a prolonged period of time. And then roughly around by 1960s was when the proper modern commercial sunscreen came out, and it's pretty much what we even use even till today. Now here's where it gets crazy. That while this whole sunscreen industry was growing from the 1930s, simultaneously the whole processed food industry also grew at the same time. So your whole Kellogg's, your sweetened foods, all the junk foods, all of that started slowly coming in at the same time in the market as well. So people thought that, okay, maybe the sunscreen industry is right because suddenly now people are getting more cancers, there are more issues, there are more health issues that people are facing, and that maybe has to do with the sun. But no one really questioned the processed food industry. They quietly started questioning the sun being suddenly now a problem after billions of years of existence. But I want you to think about it that your processed food industry started creating a lot of internal problems, which it even does till today. So our bodies were never really this sensitive, but because of the whole processed food industry, our body has become much more sensitive these days. And I'm going to tell you this with a very cool example. And also, this will make you think. If I take a vessel and I put it on the stove, and I switch on the gas and I put water in this vessel. And let's say the gas is on for a good 5 minutes. What do you think will happen? You will say rightfully that the water is going to boil. There will be a little bit of vapor that's going to come in. And at the same time, the heat is going to make that water evaporate. And that's pretty much what's going to happen, right? Because it's just plain water. But now let me take the same vessel, I put the same gas on, and I fill it with just gutter water. Now, what will happen after 5 minutes? After 5 minutes, you'll suddenly realize that, okay, this thing is turning into some black mush. You suddenly see, or you just get a very foul smell, and you see a very weird black mold forming in. and it kind of damages even your vessel. And it's literally the very same thing. Now, think about the vessel being your body, the gas being the sun, and the thing that you put in the vessel is the food that you put in your body. So, the point I'm trying to make here is that the gas was the same, the vessel was the same, only the thing that went in the vessel was what changed. So basically, the vessel didn't change, the sun or the gas didn't change, but what changed is the food that you put in your body. So the sun doesn't really cause the problems, it just reflects what you're putting inside your system. What we eat actually affects of how our skin can handle the exposure of the sun. While processed food kept coming out, no one really stopped processed food or no one blamed processed food, saying that this might be the cause of the issues that we are facing. And this whole famous saying that you are what you eat is rightfully said because what we put in our body is just what the sun reflects. So if you're having issues that you see on your skin, the sun is just reflecting all the rubbish that you're putting in your body. But this whole fear of getting scared of the sun has nothing to do with the sun. It has to do with the fear being created by an industry that wants to benefit from us. And I want you to think about it. India is one of the most hottest countries in the world in 2026. It's also one of the countries that receives the most sunlight than most countries on the planet. Has 70% of their population struggling with vitamin D. How is that possible? Because the industry has told you to fear the sun. And here's the funny thing, when the sunscreen industry also came to India, the whole processed food industry at the same time arrived. So all the garbage that we've been putting in our bodies has just now been reflecting on our skin. And what we are doing, we are blaming the sun. And if you go back in even time and just think about it, they made sunscreen out of rice bran, they use jasmine, they use multiple other things which are more natural that you could use on your skin. But right now, your current sunscreen has these chemicals. And from all of these chemicals, these are your main chemicals that are there in most commercial sunscreen. And if you're really worried about the sun affecting your skin and causing problems, you should be worried about this because these are hormone disruptors and they've been there for a very long time in sunscreens. But again, I'm going to tell you is that these are the chemicals that affect your skin much more than the sun ever has. I'm not saying that sunscreen is bad. I'm saying that the modern commercial sunscreen is not really required. If you really require to put sunscreen, use the ancient methods or use things that are more natural to your skin that you can apply and it doesn't really have hormone disruptors that affect your skin. So now the question comes to how do you protect your skin? One thing is that if you wear long clothes, you can wear a hat, you can cover yourself up if you're stepping out in the intense sun. But if you are not out in the intense sun, you don't really need, or if you're going out for 5 minutes and you're coming back, you don't really need sunscreen or anything. But if the sun is really intense, for example, if you're in a country like a UAE where during the summers the sun can really get intense, so you surely need to cover yourself up so that you don't get that intense heat hitting your skin. The second thing is that if you have lighter skin, which means that you produce lesser melanin, and the lesser melanin that you produce, you might require to protect yourself from the intense heat, especially if it's around 12 o'clock or 3 o'clock in those times. But people who have darker skin, like my skin, or little more darker, or even further darker, the darker your skin is, the more melanin production you have. So if you have darker skin, your capacity to bear the sun rays or the UV rays is much more higher than people with light skin. And if you think about this whole sunscreen industry, it's come from the West, where most people are fair skinned and they have just told that, okay, everyone requires it. Doesn't work like that. Just because fairer skinned people generally have lesser melanin production to protect them from the sun, people with darker skin have much more protection on that end. So I'm not telling you that you need to throw your sunscreen away. I mean, if you can throw it. But if you're going for a sunscreen, go for a natural sunscreen, which is made with natural ingredients. Typically, what is written in ancient Ayurveda, in ancient civilizations, where they used to use simple ingredients that you could put on your skin. And what I also want you to just use a little bit of your common sense and think about there is not a single animal on this planet that uses sunscreen. You don't see a duck just suddenly putting sunscreen everywhere, or a bear just applying and sunbathing, or he's, hiding away from the sun. Every animal lives with the sun. They don't fear the sun and they don't run away from the sun. In fact, something that we can learn from these animals is that when you go out in the sun and the heat gets too much, exit. Take some shade. You have trees for that reason. You go, you get some shade, you cover yourself up. Animals do the same thing. When it's too hot, they go, they hide themselves in shade, they stay away from the sun. We have the capacity to adapt. We can wear long sleeve clothes, we can even hold umbrellas, we can wear hats, we can do multiple things. So we can learn some things from animals, that when the sun is not that intense, you step out in the sun. When it's really intense, you can go, but make sure that you're not out there for prolonged time. But keeping all my research aside, one thing that I've understood is that the sun isn't new. It's been there for billions of years. But the fear that they've created, that's new. And understand one thing, whatever you put on your skin enters your bloodstream. So if you don't eat it, you don't put it on your skin. So I'm just going to ask you one thing, is that if you put sunscreen, let's say you put sunscreen, did you put it because you felt that it helped you, or did you put it because an industry came in and told you that you need sunscreen? Understand that the sun isn't new, it's been there for billions of years, but your fear, that's new.